Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am your host, Bridget Burke-Brown, and this is the Beyond Beauty Project, the podcast. Today, I am here with Dr. Morgan Francis, a doctor of clinical psychology and mental health therapist. She is the founder of Scottsdale Premier Counseling in Arizona. With over 20 years experience specializing in body image and eating disorders, she is committed to breaking the stigma surrounding mental health. She uses a compassionate approach to help clients address past traumas, current stressors, and future fears that hinder personal growth. A recognized expert, Dr. Francis serves as the mental health expert for 12 News Arizona's Wellness Wednesdays and is a frequent guest on Fox News. Named a Lululemon Female Leader 2019 for her work in body image, she continues to advocate for mental well-being through public speaking, online courses, and webinars. Dr. Francis lives in Scottsdale, Arizona with her husband and 3 children. I discovered Dr. Francis on Instagram, and she quickly became one of my favorite accounts to follow regarding body image. And I am just super excited to dive in today. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm such a huge fan of yours as well. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. I feel like I just love Instagram for the fact that you just find these gems. And like I said before we jumped on, I'm like, I feel like we're already friends. So I'm like, we can finally chat about all this stuff that we post. And so I'm really curious to start just to know what inspired you to specialize in body image and disordered eating. Was there like a pivotal moment in your life?
Yeah, so like many people, I struggled with my body image from quite a young age and, was a chronic dieter, was really good at finding the latest fad diet and trying to lose weight and being so miserable. And I remember being in college and I got to a point in my life where all I could think about is what am I going to eat and how am I going to get rid of it? I mean, I could be having sex and I would be thinking about this. So it just took over my life and I felt like I was in such a prison. I don't know whose website it is and I wish I could remember or find it because I would send this person a huge thank you letter because I remember her website saying, you can love your body right now as it is. And that was so radical to me because I was like, no, I can't love my body ever, or at least until I've lost the weight, or I look like the woman on Shape magazine, or I follow the diet in Cosmo, or whatever it was that I was, taking in. And so to love my body as it is was really radical, but it definitely shifted something in my thought process around my body image. And then from there, I just started to really dive into research and educate myself and understanding the history around diet culture and just finding a way to take my life back because I felt I had no control over my life when I was in my eating disorder. And then simultaneously, I'm getting my doctorate in, clinical psychology. So I actually didn't really work with women until 2017. I actually worked a lot with men in my earlier years of my private practice. And their body was just more around their sexual health than it was about food. It wasn't that we didn't talk about food, but it was much more around their sexual health. And then when I left that practice, I then really immersed myself primarily with body image and eating disorders, specifically with young adults, athletes, women. And now I have a nice mixture. I see, young adults, but I also see men going through a lot of different situations and women going through menopause. So now I kind of have a full range.
Yeah. Do you see in hindsight sort of where that obsession with your body came from?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, can you break it down? Yeah, totally. Do you want to share some of that?
Yeah. So a lot of it was the messaging. So messaging from my parents, messaging from men, I was something to be looked at. I was something to be admired. I was an object. I was meant to appeal to the male gaze. Even with being an athlete, it was made very aware that I needed to cut my weight in order to be faster, in order to be stronger. Also, don't get too bulky in your legs because men don't like thick legs. I mean, so many comments throughout my life that I was subjected to, put on diets at a very early age. My mom is an amazing woman, but she was a victim to diet culture as well. So seeing her path, and she was very, kind about the way that I looked, had opinions, but wasn't mean. I know for some of my clients, like, I hear such abusive, emotionally abusive things that they've experienced from their mothers. My mom was mean to herself. And so
Yeah.
really hard on herself and really struggled with her own weight, shape, and body image. So that's why I often talk about with parents, you can tell your daughter till, you are blue in the face how beautiful she is, but children learn through social modeling. Monkey see, monkey do. So if I see mom really unhappy and miserable with the way that she looks, and yet I'm told that I look like her, you can see how confusing this is for a child. And then on top of it was all, back then it wasn't social media, it was magazines. So, I mean, I had a subscription to every single magazine under the sun, and I would follow every single diet. I would look to see what those girls were eating, not eating, follow it, every fad
Yep.
diet I did. And it was just the 90s. I mean, I was a product of the 90s and watched,
Yep.
America's Next Top Model and all the things. So definitely those influenced the way that I experienced my body. And then, also some personal relationships where I was in abusive relationships, and men felt it was perfectly okay to do horrible things to my psychology and how I felt about myself. So, you know, there was a lot of layers to it, and thank goodness for therapy and getting
Hmm.
through it. And that's why I always share my story too, because being a therapist, I've been on the couch, I know what it's like, and I think it's for people to recognize that there is hope and there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I have
Mhm.
to think that that makes you such a better therapist because you have all that experience
Mhm.
along with your education, you know? How does perfectionism play a role in body image struggles?
Well, it can show up in a lot of different ways. So, we know that diagnostically that perfectionism is very much correlated with obsessive compulsive disorder, also correlated with anorexia nervosa, specifically that eating disorder. I'm not as familiar with ARFID, so I don't want to pretend I'm an expert in that area when I'm not. But we definitely see some correlation. So, there is a tendency for people that are seen as like type A or perfectionistic to engage in behaviors that are very obsessive and compulsive because it stays within that perfectionism. But then in general, we have, body image in and of itself. And I often make clear that just because you struggle with your body image doesn't mean that you have or you meet the criteria for an eating disorder. So that
Okay.
needs to be stated. But you can have, if you have an eating disorder, there's a strong likelihood that you're struggling with a negative body image. So with body image, that is the strive. It is for perfection, right? And that perfection is in the eye of the beholder, right? Because it's subjective. Right. So it's what I tell myself. It's my attitudes, my beliefs, my feelings, my behaviors around my body shape and appearance. So what may be perfect for you may show up differently for me. So when I am working with someone, I am exploring, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What are your attitudes? What are you doing with regards to your body shape? And there is a strive for perfectionism, which we all know is completely unobtainable, right? That is hamster on the wheel. We're constantly striving to look and to get and obtain this perfection that diet culture has spit out to us through capitalism. And if we don't meet that standard, which is impossible to meet, then we think to ourselves, well, if I only had more willpower, right? I'm not hard enough. And I'm a failure because I don't meet what diet culture is telling me that I need to meet.
Do you think diet culture has gotten worse since the 90s? Do you think it's worse now or it's gotten better or it's just different?
So if we're looking from a social psychology lens, I would say it's worse because it's in our hands, because it's in our hands. So from a social psychology perspective, we look at it, the proximity. right? So the closer that the stimulus is, the greater the impact it can have on us. So the greater
Oh, yeah.
yes. So since diet culture now can just show up in the palm of my hand because it's in my phone, and then with the reels and the all the visualizations that could come along with it, right? Yes, I would say it's worse because it's more intense from a social psychology lens, absolutely. Because before it was just coming through the mail, right? So I'd have to wait for my next issue. It was a monthly issue, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really have access to the internet. It wasn't really on the internet. Now it's on the internet. It's available 24/7.
Do you think with the body positivity and like body diversity, you don't think that's like combating it at all?
I do think it's combating it, but it wasn't meant for women that look like you and me. Body positivity was for, population that looks nothing like you and me. We have capitalized on it, to make it work for people that look like you and me, but its origins are not meant for you and I. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I'm cautious around body positivity. And I think for me as a clinician and also for me as just a person, I tend to be very cautious when using that terminology. I like body neutrality more because in my experience, when I'm working with someone with an eating disorder, the idea of loving your body is so far fetched. It's just not. I mean, I can't even get them to feed themselves, let alone like love themselves. So it's much more, I think, clinically appropriate for me to talk about body neutrality and to get them where I don't want you thinking about your body. I don't want you waking up and thinking about it because I know for myself and my own personal experience, it was constantly on my mind. It wasn't something that I ever escaped from. And so I work with trying to get them to not think about it and to live their life without, worrying about what they're eating and how they're going to get rid of it.
Yeah. Can you explain where body positivity came from for the listeners?
Yeah. So body positivity,
The real origin.
well, it is it's for marginalized groups. Um, it is not for people that are white Eurocentric that have, I have thin privilege. Even at my heaviest, I would still be considered thin. So it's not meant for privileged bodies. And I'm not saying people that are thin don't struggle with body image. So, and I think that's really important to acknowledge too. Absolutely, people that are thin struggle with body image. It shows up vastly differently for individuals that exist in larger bodies. And so body positivity was co-opted by, white influencers. And it was used by a lot of companies for their own capitalism and marketing. So I tried again, I want to be sensitive to that and not always like use those terms to apply to myself and to my other, to my clients. And instead, that's why I prefer to use body neutrality.
What are some of the most common body image struggles you see in younger children or like maybe signs that parents could look out for?
For young girls, their bodies are changing. And that can be really hard because the
Hmm.
changes can be really fast. The changes can evoke again comments from classmates, girls and boys, from teachers. So that's a lot to take in for a girl whose body's changing and she has no control over how her body's changing, right? And then there's the parents that really feel that their child's weight is a reflection of their parenting,
Mm,
right? So
explain that.
how my child looks is a reflection of me, right? And so I've talked with a lot of parents who I don't want to have a fat kid. I don't want to have a fat daughter. And they have their own biases around fat phobia because of their own experiences within their body and what messages and experiences they went through. And then I have parents that are really trying to do the right thing and be very in tune to their, let's say, their daughter's body and her behaviors around food. And so they are like so anxious, and so addictive. And they'll bring their daughter in. They're like, okay, fix her. Just fix her. Make sure she's okay. I don't want an eating disorder. And I'm like, okay. And I try to talk with the daughter through it. She's like, I'm good. I mean, I feel like I'm okay. And the other key piece is that disordered eating is so normalized in, cafeterias that it's really hard because what I would deem as disordered eating, they're like, well, that's a typical Wednesday for me. Right.
Oh, wow.
So that's
Wait,
the other key piece.
expand on that a little bit.
So, for example, like disordered eating are these rules or these guidelines that I, as the person, put into place for no other reason other than to try to maintain skinny or try to be thin, right? Because I'm fearful that I'm going to gain weight or get bloated, right? So,
Bloated.
bloated.
Yeah.
That would
Totally.
be a whole topic in of itself, right?
Everyone's always bloated. I'm
Right.
like, you're not bloated.
No, exactly. They'll say to themselves, "Oh, I can't eat this food, or I can't pair these two foods together, or I'm only eating this." And they would say, "Well, that's just a typical thing I do on a Wednesday because on Wednesdays I don't eat dairy." And it's out for, like I said, there's no reason they're not lactose intolerant. They just don't want to get bloated because Wednesday nights they have, let's say, volleyball, and they don't want to feel bloated. And when they're wearing like these shorts or their uniform, right?
Oh, wow.
Or they just don't bring a lunch to school, or if they bring a lunch, they give it to everybody else. So, I mean, we think we're giving our kids their school lunches, but we really don't know if they're eating their school lunches. So again, this disordered eating, even at home at nights, it's like, well, I've got homework to do. So we think of our kid being really super like focused on their studies and being committed to getting their 4.0. Well, no, they're skipping dinner every single day, and they're in their room doing exercises like sit-ups.
Yeah. So those are some signs that parents can look out for.
Yeah. So other signs would be taking a really strong interest in food. And this might be like, oh, well, my daughter loves to cook. Okay. But does she only eat the food that she cooks? Or is she open to eating out? Would she go to Chipotle with you? Or no, she's not going to Chipotle anymore because she doesn't like these ingredients that all of a sudden she saw on the internet that are fear-mongering ingredients, right? So that's what I mean. Like there's a strong interest in food all of a sudden, and only food that she eats. There's a strong interest in grocery shopping, making sure only certain foods are in the home. There's a stronger interest in her overall appearance. Of course, we want people to, feel proud of how they look and want to take care of themselves, but not to the detriment that it's interfering with their life, right? Their social, academic life, their sports, their hobbies, their interests, their faith, right? So that's when we see like disruption in their life because they are taking so long to leave for school, or they're taking so long to go out with their friends just to go hang out at their friend's house because they're worried about how they look. That's a
Yep. Changing their clothes a million times or too much body checking.
yes.
Do you think when it comes to just talking about bodies or talking about food in households, it almost should be kept to how we nourish our bodies and maybe we just don't make it a big deal? Do you think like parents make it almost too big of a deal because they're worried that they're almost talking about it too much?
Yeah. And we use the word health all the time. It's just as long as it's healthy, eat something healthy, get a healthy snack. It's like
get a healthy snack.
Yeah. I'm so over that word because
same.
I
talk about nourishing and like you need protein because it's going to keep you fuller and you don't want to get hangry. And there was a girl over the other day and they were having a cookie and it was right after dinner and she's like, oh, and she came back up and grabbed another piece of broccoli. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, I have to have a piece of broccoli because I'm having a cookie. And I was like, oh, like to even think about that at 10 is wild. My daughter would just be like, there's cookies now? Who cares about the broccoli?
And I was the kid that was raised in a home where there were no cookies. There was no foods. There were no foods of sugar. If they were like the snack well. And so I was the kid that ended up going to my bestie's house and then going into her pantry and binging on all the fun foods. And my mom would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm in heaven. There's actually like sugar and fun foods." It's interesting because I have three kids and we just have all foods available. We have fruit, we have veggies, we have cookies, we have chips, we have nuts, we have goldfish. I mean, anything and everything is packaged or convenient is in my house. And there will be so many times I will say to my kids, "Do you want dessert?" "No, I'm good." I mean, that would never happen with me in my home. I'd be like, "Yeah, when? Can I have seconds? Can I get more?" It was just, it was this deprivation, right? And so I always say the most addictive food is the one you tell yourself you can't have. That is the most addictive food. And so our brains are hardwired to want what we tell that we can't have. So when we make it available, we take the novelty away. And so it's not something that they feel they have to have. It's there if they want it, and they don't have to have it if they don't want it. And so it becomes neutral. And so those foods are not fun foods. They're just, that's the cookie, that's the chips, that's the nuts, that's the pretzels. It's just there.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mhm.
love that. Super cool. So many people struggle to trust their bodies after years of dieting or disordered eating. How can they rebuild that trust? And do you see, I know you use intuitive eating in your practice. Do you think that's a helpful tool in this process?
I do. I think intuitive eating can be very helpful. I think it's hard to follow the 10 principles, always. I think it can come in and out of a person's life, but it definitely gives us like a guideline, right? Like dieting to me is like having a parent with you all the time, meaning it's right. It's tell us when to eat, how much to eat, what to eat,
If
you
you're
know,
being good or bad.
good or bad. Like you got to eat this at 9. You got to eat this at not till noon. You got to stop after 7. You can have 4 ounces of chicken. You can have 6 ounces of broccoli. You can have white rice, not brown. Like that's what I do for an infant. Like I'm literally putting like a toddler. I'm putting his or her food, and I'm deciding for them. And that is really what diets do. They decide for us. So of course, we don't trust our own judgment. Of course, we don't trust our decision making. Of course, we don't trust our physical hunger and our satiation because we're relying on an outside factor to tell us when we've had enough. Tell us that now is the time to eat, right? We don't deal with anything else. I don't allow someone to tell me when to go to the bathroom. I don't wait till noon to go to the bathroom. I don't stop after 7 to not go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom when I have to go to the bathroom. And yet we don't question that, but we question our
Wow.
biological hunger. So when we put it into those terms and we normalize the body's experience of being hungry and full, we're kind of like, oh, that makes way more sense. So having that trust is giving yourself the ability to be the authority of your body, right?
I
Oh,
love that.
yeah, and it's so important to say, okay, I've had enough. I'm good. Or okay, I'm going to wait and then maybe I'll have a little bit more later. You get to choose that. And I think the biggest fear for that for people is, well, I won't stop. I once I eat, I won't stop. And my response is that could happen. And so what? Do you think you're never going to stop when it's 3 a.m. from eating your Oreos? You're going to stop. Allow your body to have what it's been craving and it will subside. And it's amazing because my one of my clients, we were talking the other day and we were laughing because she's like, remember how I was just like binging on Oreos and because I wasn't allowing myself to have the Oreos? And I said, yeah. And she goes, you told me eat the goddamn Oreos, just eat them and you won't want them anymore. She goes, it just was like Morgan, this light bulb went off. And I don't like, I look at Oreos and I'm like, they're there. Okay. It's not a big deal anymore.
That's incredible. I love
Yeah,
that story.
I know. It was so, we just laughed about it. But yeah, I think we just give ourselves that unconditional permission, which is really what intuitive eating is about, right?
Yeah.
Giving ourselves the permission.
Explain intuitive eating quickly just for the listeners.
Yeah, so intuitive eating is a principle. There's 10 of them, and so it was developed by Evelyn Tribole, and really the premise was to make peace with food, to
Mm.
use food for what it is, to satiate our hunger and understand our hunger and fullness cues, to be in tune with our emotions as well when we're eating, to minimize the distractions that we utilize when we're eating, and to really call out diet culture and to be able to move our bodies freely in a way that feels good. It doesn't mean you have to get on the stair mill. It could be like, oh, I'm going to go take a walk with my dog because that's what I want to do. And that's enough for today. So it really is, it's around finding that satisfaction factor. Right? Satisfaction is a key word in intuitive eating. What do you find satisfying? And getting really in touch with like your own palate, like what you like versus what you've been told you should eat today. And, what sounds good to me, and checking in with yourself and creating that self awareness. Those are also principles of intuitive eating. And I find it to be really effective.
Any advice on children that only want to eat like pasta? So my
Yeah.
daughter would live on pasta and French fries.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm like kind of like making her eat the chicken or the broccoli, but I'm like, she needs a little bit of broccoli and like a little bit of vegetables. And what would you say around that? So I'm
No
like, I
problem.
want her to be able to like choose, but I'm like, she would just eat all the Oreos and all the pasta.
Yeah. Yeah. My son's the same way. I have a 9-year-old that loves his dino nuggets and bagel bites. That's really about it. I mean, there's not much variety.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think to myself, is he happy? Yeah. Does he get sick? No. Does he have regular poops? Yeah. Does he go to bed?
Yeah.
Sleeps really well? Yeah. Is he nice to kids and he's doing well at school? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
you're just not worried about it.
I'm not concerned. I'm really not concerned. If he's a kid that's happy and thriving and has friends and he's kind to others and he's learning his ABCs and tying a shoe and
Yeah.
wet his butt, like I think we're good.
Like he's going to eat his broccoli one day.
It's going to happen. It's going to come around and it's okay. And he'll take a multivitamin, one of those. I mean, we used the Flintstone ones back in the day. And I'm sure, my husband gives him
Yeah.
some vitamin and he's fine.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I like this. You're like really chill about it. You're like, eat the
I'm really chill.
Oreos.
I don't really care.
Yeah. I like you almost like take the restriction completely off and let it neutralize. Like that's almost what I see you're doing.
Yeah, like he went through a phase where all he wanted was rice. I mean, literally
Yeah.
that's
Oh, Scarlett loves rice.
yeah.
Rice
Yeah.
is in her lunch a lot.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
should be friends because she's
I
9.
know.
They could
He's
eat
not
together.
cute. He's not. He's fine.
Yeah. We'll go to dinner and she's like, could I please have pasta with butter and French fries on the side? And I'm like, okay,
Girl,
whatever.
right?
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
no broccoli. No, she's like, no. I'm like, okay. All right. Okay. So we just don't worry about it so much.
No.
I like this.
He's willing to go out to eat and find something on the menu. I mean, at this point, it's not worth the battle. If you want to have the broccoli or if you want to have the pasta with a side of French fries, and okay, good for you. I mean, like, I don't know. I just don't stress about it. I feel like, again, if I really look at my kid as a whole, he's doing great. He's active and he's light. He is kind. He's, doing well with what I feel really matters. If he doesn't get in his broccoli, okay, we'll figure it out and it's not going to hurt him. I mean, there's way worse things that he could be exposed to on a daily basis. So that's a win.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but let's expand on just how to help navigate a positive body image in households. You talked about role modeling a little bit, but what else is it? I think it's almost taking the tension off of it a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's taking the attention, it's taking the focus, and it's also being aware as a parent, like what you have on television or what you're reading or how, like we talked about those environmental influencers. So I don't watch reality television. I don't like seeing women arguing with each other, like backstabbing each other and gossiping. It's just, I don't like it. I don't do it myself. I'm all about empowering other women. And I want my kids to see that. I also make sure that my kids see me without makeup on, my stomach that's, imperfect, being
Yeah.
imperfect. They see my, changes in my skin. They see just changes in my body, and it's okay. I don't always have to look a certain way to them or for them, whether it's private or in public. We don't talk about food in our house. I mean, if anything, my husband's constantly encouraging my kids. Did you eat enough? Did you get enough to eat? Make sure you eat before you go to practice. Make sure you eat after practice. Like, he's that dad bringing the cooler of all the fruit snacks and the jello and the cut up oranges. And, we're just constantly trying to encourage our kids to be nourished and have energy, and make food something that helps us. And it can be also really fun to eat. So there's no like, I shouldn't eat that, or I've had enough because I've met my caloric limit. What my son the other day was like, how many calories are in that? I'm like, well, let's look at this as how many units of energy, because that is what a calorie is, the unit of energy. So how much energy is in this package of goldfish? And so that's how I reframed it, instead of looking at it as something like caloric that he needs to pay attention to. Just went through a really hard situation where my daughter, she's 12, was body shamed. And that was, like, being someone who's obviously a therapist, and this is what I specialize in, I had to really just be patient and take my time and be there for her about how she wanted to respond to this. We took our time to figure out what would make sense for her, because she's the typical kind of girl that, oh, I'm fine, everything's okay. And I'm really trying to help her. You can have your boundaries and you can say what's on your mind and still be kind and respectful, right? Like,
Yes.
at the exact same time, we can advocate for ourselves and also be respectful in the way and how we advocate for ourselves. And so she really did. And I think she handled it in a really great way. But what's interesting is that once some of the other girls in our classroom got wind of this, a lot of them were like, oh, that's girl code. You don't body shame. And so it was great to see other girls say, we don't do that. We don't do that to other girls, and we need to stand up for each other, and we need to be there for each
Cool.
other. And so I was like, okay, there's some good work being done here with a lot of these girls in their homes. And so I was really happy to see that, because I think it helped her a lot.
Do you think going through the process of, or how she decided to go through the process with your help, do you think she feels more empowered now?
She does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because before that, she was really struggling with her confidence, and she plays a sport. And so her coach kept telling me, she's thinking too much. She's in her head. Like, she's not communicating. I need her to just really be more aggressive to the ball. And I was like, but something's going on, because I feel like, why is she so in her head? Well, this drama was happening at school. And so
Mm,
being able to kind of talk to her about some of the comments that were being said to her by another classmate, then I was like, well, no wonder you're in your head, because you're stressed out
yeah.
and you're thinking
Yeah.
it, and you're running through it over and over, replaying it over in your head. So let's talk about it. And she was, really upset, and she was crying. And then I was like, okay, I got to make sure, like, she's not going to try to, cut her food down or limit her what she's eating. I don't want that to show up and that, which can happen for a lot of people, right? So, and luckily she did it. She's like, Mom, I feel good in my body. I don't, it's not about that. And that's about her, why she said that. That's not about me. So it was,
I love that.
no, it was really empowering.
That's
And
good parenting.
thank you. And I mean, of course, you go through the roller coaster of trying to navigate it as a parent. Like, how do I approach this? I'm really grateful that she felt safe enough to tell me, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of relationships that we can have with our kids, and we don't really know what's going on in their life. And so, I think that also, when, I've had parents be like, my daughter wants to go on a diet. What do I do? And I said, well, how do you know she wants to go on a diet? And she's like, well, she told me the other day she feels really insecure about her body. And I said, how great is it that your daughter feels safe enough to even have that conversation with you?
Interesting also that they jumped to, she wants to go on a diet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if your daughter came to you and said, I feel really insecure about my body,
Mhm.
what would you respond to her?
Well, I would love to explore it and understand like
Yeah,
what is the insecurity? Is it a feature? Like, do you not like your ears? Do you not like your height? Do you not like your stomach? Do you not like your hair? Like what exactly is making you feel insecure and why? Like who's telling
yeah,
or where are you hearing this that their opinion of you overrides your own opinion of you? Like
yep,
why does what they say is true versus how what God gave you and how you were brought into this world? And it's not that people can't feel insecure about their bodies. I get that. I've felt years of insecurity
totally.
in my body. So it's not that people can't. I just want to understand it. And
Yeah. And
want
did
like
it come out of the blue, you
right,
know?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So like being curious about it. I
Yeah.
like that. Do you find that a lot of women that are going through like perimenopause or menopause are struggling with their body image, and any tips around that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I live in Scottsdale. So I don't
No, I
even-
know. I'm seeing it too. I'm like, whew,
yeah.
fun time.
Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And I mean, I feel like at this point, I can say I have a headache and it's because I'm perimenopausal. I mean, at this
Totally.
point,
Everything is blamed on the hormones. Everything.
so I don't know. I mean, I'm not a naturopath, and I always tell them I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a naturopath. If you need help around your hormones, those would be your go-to people. But yeah, we need to talk about how this is affecting your mental health, right? Affecting your body confidence, affecting your sexual health, affecting, your lifestyle. And so that I
Hmm.
can talk about with. And so sure, I offer a ton of validation because the changes are there and they don't themselves. And again, I think also we live in a world where, everything is so filtered. I mean, no wonder we feel this pressure to maintain a look of the youth of a 20-year-old, you
Yep.
know, and that's unrealistic. And so also normalizing the fact that what we're seeing, there's not representation of diverse aging bodies. Even
Yes.
the most beautiful women are struggling with this. And this is a war that is not new to us. It's just hitting you now in your 40s and 50s, and it's never over. You just have to outsmart it, and you don't have to buy into the capitalism of it, and continue to live your best life and get the help. Go meet with a naturopath and figure out your hormones and what makes sense for you. I've been working with a couple women lately, and they have. And it's been very helpful for them to work with a medical provider to help them navigate their hormones. And so they're sleeping again and they're feeling better about
Yeah.
themselves, doing the cold
Yeah.
plunge, red light therapy, and going to the gym. But they're not starving themselves. They're like,
Yep.
I need to eat, I need nourishment, I need the protein, I need the
Yep.
fun. So
Yep.
yeah.
I need the fun.
Mhm.
Don't forget about the fun. It's so
No,
true.
I know.
How would you define true wellness?
Well, I'm not a big fan of the word wellness. I think it's
Oh,
been
you're not. Oh, tell me why.
I just I
Because
think it's
everybody,
co-opt, I think it's just wellness is another word for skinny. I mean, I just feel like it's another word and we don't see wellness in a diverse way. At least I don't. Wellness for me is connection and great sex. I
yeah,
think that
I love
is
that.
I think that's like wellness for me.
I
It has
love that.
nothing to do with my appearance or what I'm eating at the moment or not eating. I think it's just more connection. I love connecting with other women. I love seeing growth, whether it's personal growth, financial growth, spiritual growth, and other women.
Yep.
I love hearing what's going on for my friends and listening to them. And I appreciate great sex, and
Love
I think
this.
that's just the key right there.
I love this. Are you a sex therapist? Do we need to talk about that? I don't have any questions about. You are?
Yeah.
Wait, why didn't I know that?
I don't talk about it on my Instagram. So I don't put it
Oh,
because I really don't want inappropriate pictures being sent to me in my DMs.
yeah, yeah.
No, so where I used to work with men was on sex therapy. And so I worked with men for about 10 to 15 years around sexual compulsivity, pornography, infidelity.
Mm.
And
Oh,
so
interesting.
I work a lot in that area. Yeah. And that's where the body image piece came in because of their sexual health and the things that they were experiencing.
Yeah. Okay. I have questions, but I think that might be another show because we're already getting to time. Okay. You launched Bye Bye Body Blame. I love that name, by the way. What was the driving force behind creating the course, and what do you hope people take away from it?
So the driving force was access. So I felt that when you are a therapist, you're licensed in your state. And so you cannot provide therapy outside of your state jurisdiction. And so starting to grow on Instagram, I had so many people be like, I want to work with you. I want to work with you. And I'm like, I can't. So it was very limiting. And so Bye Bye Body Blame came from like getting people to have access to what I am able to talk about in my therapy sessions. And what was really great about it is that being on Instagram, I feel like it was continuing education, to be honest with you, because I learned from so many marginalized groups that I felt within that course, I wasn't also providing a lot of the history of racism that's immersed, obviously, with diet culture and the roots of diet culture.
Yeah.
I wanted to put more about the BMI. And so right now it's actually under construction because there's just a lot more that I feel like that I've learned and I've grown as a clinician and understood. So the second part of that is that I created a training program for clinicians, coaches, professionals. And that was released last year to help. Let me help people that are working with other people so that they have a better understanding of body image. And so that's what it evolved to for right now. And that was great. That was very successful.
Cool. I'm going to check that one out. Any other offerings you want to share with us?
A lot of downloadable freebies. So a lot of like how to build body confidence, things around mental health, boundaries, trauma, how to get through the holidays. So I try to make a variety of offerings. So it's not just body image. And then I also have a course on grief and loss that I launched in 2020 during COVID.
So, as we finish up, just for anybody out there struggling with their body or disordered eating, but they're not quite ready to maybe admit it or seek professional help, what are some first steps they can take that are just more kind of simple and easy, just steps to help them?
I think a lot of people, the reason that they don't get help is because they don't feel like they are sick enough or that they deserve to be helped. Help is something that has never been really just offered or unconditionally provided. It was conditioned or it just wasn't available in their house. So even saying like, I need help comes from a very wounded place, and allowing ourselves to be helped, I think is very vulnerable for a lot of people. I understand the hesitancy or the resistance or the vulnerability that comes with allowing yourself to be helped. I myself did not accept help for quite some time because I was like, I can handle it, right? I know what to do. It's not that big of a deal. Other girls are struggling with this too. So it's fine. And it wasn't fine. I was affecting my medical well-being to the point with my eating disorder. So I think that for anyone that's struggling, I validate you, I acknowledge you, and you are worthy of getting help. You are worthy of reaching out and at least talking to a trusted friend or support system. It may not be therapy. It may be really difficult to get into a therapy office. So it may be, following my page, following your page, downloading those sources, listening to your podcast, and in there and just allowing some of the things that we talk about to like I said, I came across a website and I was like, oh my gosh, I can love the way that it is. And that's what it took for me to start making the changes in my own life. So that's where I would say where people can start if willing to start.
Yeah, just getting curious and staying open.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to share before you tell everybody where they can find you?
No, you're fabulous. That's all.
You're fabulous. I know. Thank you so much. I feel like we could have went on and on and on. I didn't even ask you all my questions, but I'm like, we're going to be here forever. Thank you so much. I just can't wait to listen to it back and soak it all in. And I'll see you on the Instagram, on the gram.
I know, right? So fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening or watching Beyond Beauty Project, the podcast. If today resonated with you, pass it on to a friend. And to keep the conversation going, check out the workshops that I facilitate. For preteens to adults, we challenge perfectionism, we redefine confidence, and we really get back in tune with our minds and our bodies. I also offer keynotes for colleges and corporate, where I provide thought-provoking talks about redefining success and getting back in tune with your true self and your true genius. Subscribe to our newsletter where you can keep up to date on everything BBP related. And as always, we love to hear from you. So drop us a review, send us a DM, and I will see you next week.